Rob. So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our continuing webinar series or Zoomcast series, whatever you want to call it. On behalf of all of us from the Benefits Trust, we'd like to take this opportunity. Thank you for joining us. Certainly an exciting day, without a doubt, because guess what? We get to all gather and talk about benefits. One of the things that we started, we started these Zoomcasts a number of years ago, and the idea was sharing information. And one of the things that we do well in the insurance business is share information. And I remember when I first was interested in joining the insurance industry, I came to a session to find out a little bit more about it. And it was an old, advocate session, but it was called something, LUATC or something many years ago. And saw this session and saw two giants in the industry that have sadly passed away, but they got up and they did this case study and they shared a pile of information. And I remember how moved I was with this particular presentation. It was done by these two great men. And I said, this is an industry that is fantastic. So I want to continue on that legacy and share information. And that's what it's all about. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being in a room where everybody gets smarter. Today, we're going to talk about executive benefits. But before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. For signing up for today, you're going to be signed up for our newsletter, which we've done for close to 155 months, I think, consecutively. There's a lot of valuable information in that called the Trusted Advisor. Comes out every single month. You're going to get a really short survey. Fill it out. Tell us how we did. Tell us how we can do it better. And tell us what you'd like to see in future Zoomcasts. Mike Ignatz is going to send you a CE credit following the session today. And we encourage you to please turn your cameras on. So thank you all very much. Joining us today from the Benefits Trust, Jordan Bullhose is here, Mike Ignatz, and running the technical things behind the scene, and great salesperson as well, Rob, my son Crowder. Rob, my son Crowder. That's his middle name, my son. There we go. So lots of fun happening here today. So thank you very much for joining us on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust. And let me just share my screen and let's get started because we're going to finish at 11 o'clock sharp. We'll stick around for a few minutes after if you want to continue the conversation, which is dynamite, but we will certainly finish right at 11 o'clock sharp. If you have a question throughout the session today or a comment, just put it in the chat box so everybody can see. And if it's a question, one of our wonderful folks will be able to help you out. But if you put it so everybody can see, it's again on that theme of everybody gets smarter because somebody else might have the same or a similar question. As well as that, if you have another question, you want to direct it directly to me, we encourage that as well. Just put up your hand emoji so it shows up on my screen and I'll certainly get to you. But we want to talk today about executive benefits, real executive benefits, and what does it mean? We've had a lot of questions about executive benefits in the past. And we had people fill out surveys and they wanted to find out more information about it as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, hold on a second. Something is going. There we go. Okay. So what does it mean? Well, our agenda today is to talk about a little bit about ourselves and not so much as a commercial, but more sort of the perspective where we're coming from. I want to talk about taxation. It's certainly important. What are executive benefits, when to use executive benefits, the advisor role, and then, of course, question answers and discussions. So a little bit about us. We started on January 1st, 1994. We've been around for quite a few years now. We're a full service TPA. It's interesting. Still, we talk to a lot of advisors and they think all we do is healthcare spending accounts. And that's certainly not the case. We're a full service third party benefit administrator. We're the largest independently owned TPA in Canada. In 2024 and 2025, we were named a top employer by Benefit and Pension Monitor magazine. A top employer in this industry, which is great. We were also a top benefit provider, which is great. And late in 2025, excuse me, we were awarded a 5-star technology award because of our app. We've got thousands upon thousands of people using our app, or tens of thousands of people, I should say, using our app. And we were given a 5-star technology award because it's so easy and great to use. As well as that, what we do is we provide in a simple, four-word statement, we provide custom employee benefit solutions to your end user clients. We provide custom employee benefit solutions. Our clients tell us because of a survey that we did recently that we've got exceptional client experience. Over 90% of our clients said we've got exceptional client experience. We've got long-term relationships with all the major Canadian insurance companies and service suppliers. And our target market is really working with advisors like you with clients from 1 to 100 employees. That's our target market. We've got quite a few clients that have well over 100 employees. But again, that's our target market. And the reason for that target market being that size, quite frankly, is that's where the business is in Canada. There's 450,000 businesses in Ontario alone with 1 to 100 employees right now. So that's where our target market is. So when we were putting this presentation together, we were thinking, or I was thinking certainly about it, is when you sell something, and let's face it, we're advisors, we're brokers, whatever you want to call ourselves, as professional insurance people, you need to have a hook. You need to have a hook. It's pretty difficult to catch fish if you don't have a hook. It's as simple as that. And selling benefits, you need a hook. And especially in today's world where there's a lot of noise going on. There's a ton of noise going on out there in the marketplace. And more specifically, there's a ton of noise going on in our clients' marketplace. They're getting hundreds of emails, they're getting hundreds of calls. They're about all sorts of different things, and AI is taking over the world and all sorts of things. And you turn on the news, there's just a lot of noise out there. So I think it's important to have a hook and have a really good hook. And I got to tell you, hey, calling on someone, calling on a stranger and saying, hey, I can help you save money with your employee benefit program is not a great hook. It's a hook, but it's not a very sharp hook or not a very big hook, and it's not going to, get you a lot of fish. So I think executive benefits is a great hook to certainly get people interested. You're starting at the top down, and that's what we want to focus on today. So a benefit plan is nothing more than a promise. And I think, we've said this a lot over the years, but I keep on coming back to this because it's real, right? A benefit plan is a promise between an employer and an employee. And when we're talking about executive benefits, something that's, interesting is, I'm an employer. I'm the president of the Benefits Trust. Okay? Started the Benefits Trust in 1994. So I wear two hats. I wear a hat as an owner of the business, but I also wear a different hat as an employee of the business. I'm an employee of the business as well. So a benefit plan is a promise between an employer, a corporate entity, and a group of employees. And when you get clients to think like that or prospects to think like that, often a light bulb goes off and it frees up their thinking. But when we use the word promise, promise is a real thing. Promise is a very, very real thing. It's an emotional thing. It's if I make somebody a promise I'm committing to it. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to make you a promise that I'm going to start this webinar right at 10 o'clock and we're going to finish right at 11 o'clock. That's a promise that I'm making to you. Right? And I got to keep that promise because that promise is my reputation. It's all of those wonderful things. So it's important. So when we use a benefit plan, when we use simple language like it's a promise, really it gets people, and more importantly, it gets our prospects and our clients thinking a little bit differently, and it frees up their thinking. Benefits are nothing more than a form of compensation. You work at a company, you get paid $48,000 a year, you get 3 weeks vacation. And if you go to the dentist, you get reimbursed 80% of your expenses up to a maximum of $1,500, for example. That's just a form of compensation. So benefit plans are a part of a company's compensation philosophy. And when you think about that, every company's got a compensation philosophy. It may not be written down, it may be, internal, but every company's got a compensation philosophy. And when we're talking about owners and executives in the company, most cases, owners are compensated differently based on the role in the organization, their tenure in the organization, and most importantly, profit. The company's profitable or very profitable. The owner often makes a lot more money than the most recent customer service agent that they hired. So benefits are a form of compensation. So benefit plans should match the compensation philosophy. It's important to ask the company, your prospect or your client, what their compensation philosophy is and to determine what benefits are important to them. You say, hey, we were talking to a client just last week or the week before last, I should say, 2 weeks ago, and we were asking them about their compensation philosophy, and they said, we want to be in the top quartile of pay. We want to have the highest bonuses. We want to be industry leaders in this particular field. We want people to want to come to us. And they've done that, and they've had that philosophy for many years. And we're saying, hey, that's fantastic, but your benefit plan needs to match that compensation philosophy. We think it's important because you've got, you want to be the top, but you've got the worst benefit plan. It doesn't match and it causes conflicts. So I think it's important that we talk about compensation philosophy, and then we have the benefit plan or the promise that the employer is making to the employee to match that compensation philosophy. Um, and it, when you have that coercion, if you would, it works. But these conversations can help identify the groups within the group and the direction in which the client wants to move. And also it tells you if they're a good prospect or not. We walked into one client, this was years ago, and they were in Brampton, and I was asking them questions along these lines of what's your compensation philosophy? And they said, we want to have the cheapest benefit plan that we can get to keep the union out. Right. And I'm sitting there going, this isn't a great prospect. Not for me anyway. It wasn't a great prospect for me because they just wanted to have the cheapest solution they could. So when you talk like this, you understand what your client is and where they're coming from. But again, what are the groups within the group? Fantastic question to ask. Just a fantastic question to ask because it gets the client thinking differently. And especially because you've used that word promise beforehand, then you're asking them, what do you want to promise these different groups within the group? Because again, they may have different compensation philosophies for these groups. So, for example, office staff versus warehouse staff versus sales staff. Sales staff may be incentivized based on their sales. The marketing department, if they have a marketing department or a marketing person, um, management, professional staff. Professional staff don't have to be, but are often treated significantly differently than the warehouse staff, for example. And then, of course, you've got the owners, partners, founders, executives, however you want to define it. But there are different groups within the group, and it's a great question to ask because, again, it frees up that thinking about a benefit plan that everybody has to be the same and everybody gets the same benefits because we only have 10 employees. It's not the case, right? It can be very, very different. But I like to say, let's start at the top, and that's what we're here to talk about is executive benefits. In most cases, the owners or the executives that run the business are compensated differently, and they form another class, right? Or they're from another class. They're typically highly compensated, especially if the company's profitable or very profitable. They're very highly compensated. So we're going to focus again on this ownership executive group for this presentation. And it's a great way to, again, start from the top down. But it's important to talk about taxation. This is something that we often take for granted because we think everybody knows that a benefit plan is tax deductible expense to a business and the benefits are received tax free, but others don't. So, when we're talking about taxation of an employee benefit plan, tax efficiency strategy is forefront in the executive's compensation structure. Nobody likes to pay taxes. I haven't met a single business owner that I know that loves paying taxes. They don't, right? Because they pay a lot. Uh, and creative solutions are often very appealing to owners and executives to get their attention and get their attention quickly. It's very appealing. Um, and it's simple. Most business owners and executives want to minimize tax. They want to minimize the tax that they have to pay, right? And that's critical when we're talking to owners and executives about benefits and other things. We want to look for ways to simplify the solutions that you're bringing to the table, but also minimize tax because that's forefront on business owners' minds, especially this time of the year when taxes are due at the end of this month. But it's important to remember that, as I just mentioned, premiums for an employee benefit plan are fully tax deductible business expenses, right? So they're tax deductible. It's just like buying pens and paper. It's a tax deductible business expense. The benefit is then received by the employee or the owner or the executive tax free. So it's a tax deductible business expense. It's a benefit of employment. The benefit is received tax free. This is second nature to all of us. I'm not telling you something you don't know, but it's interesting because we can't assume that everybody understands this. And this is the point. We can't assume that everybody understands this. We've got to point this out. And we've got to point this out over and over and over again. And to remind people of this fact, right? To remind people of this fact. And it's separating yourself from other advisors. The other advisors that aren't on this call, there's 100 people on this call today, roughly. And, there's thousands that aren't, right? But we need to separate ourselves from those. And many advisors are out there looking, they think their job is to find the, lowest cost and lead with this when working with prospects. Yeah, it's all about price. We got to find a lower cost. This is costing too much. We got to get the price down. We got to get the price down. Not necessarily. I think you want to show owners and executives a way to increase their benefit plan costs. Pardon? What? Yeah, we want to show you a way to increase your benefit plan costs. It's as simple as that. Wait, what? Yeah, we want to show you a way to increase your costs. And we'll tell you the reasons why, right? So when we're talking about executive benefits, right? A lot of things, oh yeah, we've got a slightly different benefit plan for the owners and the executives in the plan. And yeah, we got higher limits and a little bit higher plan maximums. Everybody's got $1,500 of dental expenses and we've got 2,000, or they've got $50,000 of life insurance and we have 100,000, right? But there's so much more you can do. Executive medicals and private healthcare, core plans, healthcare spending accounts, cost plus, pretty boring stuff. Everybody talks about these things, pretty boring stuff, right? And we're going to talk more about cost plus in a moment, but yeah, it works, but it's not great. So cost plus, right? When we're talking about executive benefits, let's talk about it a little differently. So when a client understands that a benefit plan is nothing more than a promise between an employer and an employee, and they're an employee of the organization, you say to the executive, why don't we have a benefit plan that covers you for 100% of everything? 100% of everything that's on the CRA approved medical and dental list. 100% unlimited plan. It's a fully budgeted ASO plan. You're going to pay for what it is that you use. No more, no less. It's as simple as that. You're going to pay for everything as a tax deductible expense to your business, and you're going to receive the benefit tax free. It's the most tax effective solution for business owners, and there's no issues because monthly report, what we do is monthly reporting, and there's no surprises at renewals. We've got hundreds of cases that are set up like this, if not more, thousands of cases, I'd say, that are set up like this. And it's interesting because there's never any surprises at renewal. And you especially, you've got one or two owners of a business and their families are covered, and they spend almost as much or sometimes more than the entire employee group put together. But it's a tax deductible expense to the business, right? It's an unlimited plan. Right? It's 100% of everything. The promise is we are going to pay for 100% of your expenses as defined by Canada Revenue Agency, period. No maximums, no co-insurances, no deductibles, 100%. This allows the budget to change at a point throughout the year as executives and owners claims, right? It's simple as that. Hey, great. All of a sudden, if somebody puts in a $100,000 claim, for example, yeah, we might have to adjust their budget, but really, it's just a way to pay for things that you're going to pay for anyway, right? And it's interesting because when we talk to owners about this, especially when they haven't had this plan before, they go, you ask them the question, you go, how much do you spend throughout the year? And they go, geez, I don't have any idea. I've never really thought about it. And they often estimate less. So when we set up a plan like this, it's really throwing darts at a dartboard or educated dartboard and saying, hey, I think we're going to have these kinds of expenses. Yeah, the kids need braces, or yeah, we go to MedCan once a year, whatever it is, but we can estimate what their expenses are. And then we set a budget accordingly. And this is more robust and flexible than a healthcare spending account because a healthcare spending account is clearly defined. You're putting in a bucket of money. It's as simple as that. Here's a bucket of money, and call it $5,000 you're putting in for that bucket of money, and the executive can spend up to that $5,000 limit. And this is a lot better than cost plus. Cost plus is fantastic, but you touch it too many times. So for me to have a cost plus claim paid, for example, because I don't process payments in my office, but I would have to put a claim in through, for glasses, for example, through my benefit plan, and then I would get my $100 back or $150 back. And then I would have to fill out a cost plus claim form for the other $500 for these glasses, for example. And then I have to fill out an internal document for our accounting system. And then I would have to give it to our accounts payable person. And that accounts payable person would know that I'm getting this cost plus benefit, and it takes time, etc. And, I don't necessarily want my employee to know that I'm claiming an extra $500 for my glasses or therapy appointments or something even more sensitive. So cost plus can be very cumbersome. One thing I know about executives, they want to touch it once. And of course, all this is available with a claim secure drug card as well. So as well as that, with the executive plan at 100% of everything, we still add in the important things that would make up part of a traditional health benefit. For example, stop loss or high level pooling. And we can set it up at a $7,500 level, a $10,000 level, a $15,000 level, whatever the client is comfortable with. As well as that, out of country travel insurance can be added to all these plans as well. So, a traditional 30-day product, a 60-day product, a 90-day product, but we can go higher as well, 120, 180, depending on what the executive does. I know a lot of employers, business owners that, are now spending time in Florida or Arizona, for example, during the winter months because they want to get away from the snow and the ice. So they run their businesses successfully from Florida, right? From Arizona, and they go down there for 120 days. So we can set up the plan according, and again, this is an executive plan within potentially a benefit plan, but we can set up the benefit plan accordingly to what their needs are. So this class of employees, which is one person, gets this 128-day coverage, and this class of employees, which is all the other employees, gets a 30-day product or a 90-day product or a 60-day product, whatever makes sense. So again, that's where that flexibility comes into play. But what's covered in an executive plan? So we've got the out of country coverage. We've got stop loss in place for those large in Canada claims like drugs and so on, should something like that arise. But again, what is covered under an executive benefit plan? Well, 100% of everything, as long as it's an eligible medical expense. Right? Simple as that. Prescription drugs, right? All dental services, including implants and ortho and anything. Paramedical services, no limits, no co-insurances, no maximums. I dislocated my shoulder after a fall on the ski slopes a couple of years ago, and I needed a whole bunch of physiotherapy. And the $500 or $300 max wasn't even going to be close to covering the physiotherapy I needed, right? Um, you know, uh, Medical appliances, orthotics, hearing aids, anything like that is covered under an executive benefit plan. Um, and you can go a little deeper, right? Executive medical, private healthcare, Medcan, Cleveland Clinic, TELUS Health, full body MRI scans, right? Personally, I don't have a family doctor. With the amount of taxes that we pay in this province, and I've paid over the years, I don't have a family doctor. My doctor quit. Family doctor I had quit. And I live in Huntsville, Ontario, and I have to go downtown to downtown Toronto to go to Medcan. So I have to pay for my medical expenses. I have to pay for my medical care, I should say. And it is what it is, and I'm happy with the service I get there, but it's, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 a year for myself and $3,000 or $4,000 a year for my wife. Right? I live in multiple homes, so I've got multiple CPAP machines. Why? Because I'm too lazy to carry them from one place to the other. It's about convenience. Multiple pairs of glasses. I've got three of the exact same pair of glasses. A pair in my office, a pair in my home office, and a pair in my briefcase because I only use them when I'm using the computer. Right? Psychological assessments for dependents at school. I know a lot of people's children have, these psychological assessments to help them learn better. Private school tuition for dependents with special needs, right? Private school tuition can be covered under a benefit plan for a dependents with special needs. Um, we paid a number of these over the years, a small number, mind you, but a number of them over the years. But somebody becomes disabled in their home and they do not want, or not, they become disabled and they do not want to leave their home. So stairs become a real big issue. So people are retrofitting their homes and putting in elevators. That's an eligible expense. We paid one last year. I think it was $175,000. You know, the list is vast. Veterinarian services and food for your service animal. Right? These are all things that are eligible medical expenses. We encourage you to visit the CRA website. Rob, can you jump in here? You got this. Tell us more about this website and where it's from.
Yeah, this is just right from the CRA website. So you type in CRA approved eligible medical expenses, and it'll bring you up to a link to the CRA website. And then if you go through the slides, you'll actually see screen grabs right from the website. So it's
Yeah.
very comprehensive. It's very black and white. There's no questions on what's covered and what's not. You can look through and click in at each link, and it will give you more detail. Might
Yeah.
recommend checking it out.
So all of these things, are eligible expenses. Birth control devices, non-prescription, not eligible. Great. Over-the-counter condoms, I guess, right? Et cetera. But you can see all these things that are eligible. Diaper services are not eligible. Uh, but all these things are eligible. And there's this is just a few pages of it, but there's um, hundreds and or thousands of things that are eligible under a benefit plan. But again, right down to veterinarian services for your seeing eye dog or your support animal. Um, but all of these things are eligible. So again, when you set up the benefit plan promise that says, "Hey, fantastic, we're going to cover you for 100% of everything," it really means 100% of everything. It's just not what an insurance contract says, a traditional insurance contract that says all of these things are covered, as defined in the contract, and you're covered at 100%, but your employees are covered at 80%. That's not an executive plan. That is not an executive plan. That's just a higher level of reimbursement for a restricted list of things. So what we say is, an executive plan. It's the most tax effective way. Simply the most tax effective way to pay for things that the business owner is going to pay for. Anyway, like I said, CPAP machines. I use a CPAP machine because I'm snore and old and fat and whatever, right? Well, fantastic. Again, I live in, two places. So I want two CPAP machines. I don't want to have to carry it back and forth. As simple as that. Call me lazy, call me whatever you want. Doesn't matter. I don't want to do that. So it's about convenience. This is all about convenience. Glasses. I don't want to have to look for my glasses. I want three pair of glasses, one in my briefcase, one in my office, one in my home office. That's what I choose to do. I'm going to do that regardless of what my benefit plan is. Simple as that, right? If an owner needs something or wants something, they're going to do it regardless of whether or not they're covered. They're not going to check their benefit plan. So let's set up their benefit plan according to this attitude, right? It makes the most sense to cover it through a benefit plan. A business owner should never reach into their pocket and pay for anything that's on that list. They should never use after-tax dollars, the most tax inefficient dollars. So yes, we're talking about employee benefits here, but again, we're talking about it from the owner's perspective. And it's about convenience. If somebody wants something, a business owner, a wealthy business owner, they're going to get it. If my wife wants something, she's going to get it. She's not going to ask me if it's covered under the benefit plan. She's going to get it. But what's the most cost-effective way to do it? It's through a proper executive benefit plan. Again, touch it once. It's all about convenience. So how do we set these things up? Well, a one life plan. There's a lot of people out there that run a business. It's a business and it's a one life plan. A small company, one owner, maybe a few employees. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about, a separate class on a traditional benefit plan. And we're going to talk about multiple employers and C-suite executives and how we've used this concept in each of these different scenarios. Um, because the scenario is really who's the owner of the plan, who's the owner of the company, and how to best set up a benefit plan for them. So, pooled insurance, because a benefit plan also consists of a number of things, but when we've got very small companies like the one and two life company, it might be somebody that's got a very unique skill set that is operating by themselves, and they might have a part-time person or they might have a full-time person. Yeah, we can still set up a benefit plan, or more importantly, they can still set up a benefit plan. And we do this by adding, for example, life in AD&D. Yeah, a one life, we can put in a $100,000 life insurance plan with a $50,000 non-evidence maximum. We can put in $25,000 of critical illness, and we can put in a very basic long-term disability plan, which is $2,500 a month for a 5-year claim maximum. again, this is 1 or 2 lives. None of this is eligible, or none. You don't have to provide evidence of insurability for that 50,000 or 25,000 or $2,500. But this also gives you an opportunity to put these things in place and also sell them additional insurance and sell them additional long-term disability insurance or critical illness. So this is available for a one life owner operator, right? We've got a client that I keeps on coming to mind, but this particular individual has a very unique skill set. And he doesn't want to work for any one company. He wants to work for multiple companies with this very specific skill set. People come to him to help solve a problem. And he is I guess you'd call it an elevator engineer. So he works with construction companies on when they're designing buildings on setting up the elevator banks for that particular building. So he's got this very unique skill set. He wants to work by himself. He does work by himself, right? He's got a business, it's incorporated, bills out a couple $1,000,000 a year, and he wants a benefit plan for him and his family. Terrific. So the most cost-effective way to set up a benefit plan is we put in a basic amount of the life insurance and the critical illness insurance and the long-term disability insurance. For example, we add in stop loss and out of country coverage because the guy likes to travel with his family, right? He wants to protect his business if he gets somebody needs a very expensive drug like $100 or $200,000 drug. And then, you know what? We put in 100% reimbursement for all of his medical expenses. Simple as that. It's easy to understand and really quick to quote. People often ask us, they go, oh, whoa, whoa, what about shareholder benefits? This would be considered a shareholder benefit. Well, it can be considered a shareholder benefit, but if it's set up correctly, right, there's nothing that prevents an employer with one employee. Again, you've got that corporation and then you've got the employee, they've got T4 earnings to set up a benefit plan um, where there's an element of insurance in this benefit plan. So you've got the stop loss, you got the out of country, you've got the stop loss, the out of country, the life insurance, etc. It's set up, it's funded on a monthly basis. They get bills, they have a drug card, they have a booklet, they've got all the things that go, an app. They've got all the things that go along with it, just the same as a 10-person group would, or a 50-person group, or a 100-person group, or a 1,000-person group. And it's not considered a shareholder benefit because they have all those things set up. But it's quick and easy to understand and easy to quote. So the other opportunity is we've got a small company that might have one owner, but they've got a few employees. And this is quite common in Canada, certainly quite common in Ontario. Either you work for a big mega company or you've got all these small companies. And this is, so how we do this is we set up an unlimited plan for the owner. Again, 100% of everything like we've discussed with the stop loss and out of country. And then you can provide other basic extended healthcare and dental coverage for employees or a healthcare spending account for the employees. So you've got, again, that question, what are the groups within the group? What are the groups within the group? And then you can add in group life, you can add in AD&D, you can add in critical illness, you can add in LTD, an EAP program or virtual health, and certainly out of country coverage. So it depends. You have to ask these questions. What's important to you? Business owner, what's important to you? Besides you, what's important? What do you want to do? And this is how I position it. What do you want to do if an employee unfortunately passes away? What do you want to do? Do you want to deliver a check to their beneficiaries? What happens if somebody gets really sick? Water cooler, standing around the water cooler, and somebody gets really sick and they've got, a form of cancer or they've had a heart bypass surgery or whatever it is. Yeah. Do you want to be able to deliver a check? Do you want to be able to help them out? And, these are great things, great questions to ask the employer is how do you feel about this when something like this happens? Because that's how you can build up the benefit plan. You've got the 100% plan for the owners, but then all of a sudden, what are the things that are important to add in from their perspective? We've got a lot of clients that say, hey, you know what? We want to have, for example, $25,000 of life, but we want to have $250,000 of AD&D. We have and this is from personal experience, but a neighbor of ours, unfortunately, passed away as a result of an accident. And the beneficiary in this case, the wife, got $25,000 of life insurance and $25,000 of AD&D. They were standing on their head and spinning because their life was so abruptly changed in such a short period of time. So we have that discussion with clients, and it's interesting because all of a sudden, AD&D is pennies. You throw $250,000 of AD&D. Yeah, it doesn't really, people don't think about it, but all of a sudden, God forbid something should happen, you're delivering a meaningful check. So these are the types of things that we can bring to the table. And again, we're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 employees. What are the groups within the group? How do you want to set up? What do you want to promise? Let's start with you, business owner. What do you want to promise? Well, the 100% plan because it makes sense. We're making money and it makes sense, right? The owner pays, for what they claim, no more, no less, right? The employees, for example, if you've got a healthcare spending account, like the flexibility of the healthcare spending account, because you might have 2 or 3 employees that are very different. So you can set up a healthcare spending account. It gives you cost certainty and control of the budget, right? And this is a great way to set up a plan for virgin groups with no claims experience. And it's a great starting point for a company. So you set up this executive plan with some life insurance, some AD&D insurance, or just even AD&D insurance, critical illness insurance, for example, or a basic amount of long-term disability, add a country coverage. Then you set up the 100% plan for the owner. And then for the employees, you're giving them a healthcare spending account. And that healthcare spending account, again, provides that cost certainty and makes a great deal of sense. But it's a great starting point for a company. They go, hey, great, we've got budget certainty for a lot of this. We got budget certainty for our employees. We got tax effectiveness for the business owner, and we've got the appropriate protection in place. The appropriate protection in place should something catastrophic happen. So as opposed to, hey, you've got 5 lives or 3 lives, here's a package from ABC Insurance Company or XYZ Insurance Company, and everybody has the same thing. What's better? I like the tax efficiency myself. And again, this is for people that are making money. It's not for people that aren't making money. People that aren't making money don't have a problem. They're not buying braces and 3 pairs of glasses and 2 CPAP machines. People that have money are buying braces and CPAP machines and glasses, etc. Now, what about a separate class on a traditional plan? Great, you've got 20 employees, 50 employees, 100 employees, whatever it is. You've got a separate class. Again, compensation. What's the compensation philosophy of the company? What's the compensation philosophy of the company? And does the benefit plan match that? Often it doesn't. So all of a sudden, let's carve out the executives, let's carve out the owners, and let's give them that 100% unlimited plan. But let's keep the same defined plan for the employees. So instead of, a lot of people don't necessarily you want to open up the can of worms, shall we say, but hey, all of a sudden you're going fishing with a hook and you're saying, hey, why are you reaching into your pocket for anything? Let's have a discussion about that. Keep the same defined plan design for the employees. This structure, keeps the decision makers very happy. They're less likely to answer door knocks, as I like to say. Somebody coming along and saying, I can save you 10%. And you're going, yeah, you know what? We're claiming 40 or $50,000 on this thing. Don't touch my executive plan. This helps you build a unique plan design around your prospect or your client, or unique offense, I should say, around your prospect or your client. All of a sudden they go, hey, geez, how come I didn't know about this? Because your advisor was looking for the cheapest solution. Well, great, we can keep that solution, but we're just going to take you out of it and put you in a separate class. It's as simple as that. It's fishing for the big fish with a hook, right? It's great. We've run into the situation. Oh, sorry. As well as that, pardon me. As well as that, the owner class can be separated on renewal to show the true cost of the owner's claims versus the employees, right? Because we've had clients where they say, okay, this is great, but we've got a contributory plan. The employees are paying a portion of their share, and we don't want our experience to affect their costs. Okay, great. Well, so what we do is we can keep it completely separate. We set up a separate class, class A, class X, whatever you want to call it. And we keep the experience separate as well. So it makes the renewal easy and straightforward. But one thing that's for sure is the owner doesn't want to switch because once they taste the Kool-Aid, once they get this executive plan, they never want to switch. So when someone knocks on the door and says, hey, let me, save you 10%, they're going, yeah, we're not interested in that because we have this 100% plan that no one else can do, right? So the rates for the owner class, because we keep them separate, can be adjusted accordingly. and the employee class can be, dealt with separately as well. But this is a great solution for executives, and it's a great solution for plans that have cost sharing as well. Because it's not all melded together, you can keep it separate. Again, it's just a promise, and how you account for that promise is important, but it's defined by the employer. It's defined by the client. What happens if you've got a situation where there's multiple owners or partners in a company? This is quite common in law firms and accounting firms, or companies that have multiple owners. Simple as that. In my case, there's two of us that own the benefits trust, and we keep track of what we spend each, and then we come up with other ways to equalize it, shall we say, at the end of the year. But if a company has multiple owners, the 100% plan still works, and it's pretty easy for them to understand this. Yeah, 100% of everything, tax effective, all the things that we've talked about in the last 40 minutes, 41 minutes. But what we do is send a utilization report, and this can be sent to the company on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, on a semi-annual basis, whatever works for their internal accounting systems. And it shows what each partner has been paid out of the benefit plan, not what they've been paid for, but what they've been paid. So, partner A spent $3,000, partner B spent $30,000. Great. There's a difference of $27,000. What they do is, and how they come up with an equalization process is their business. It has nothing to do with us. But again, you're sending that report on a monthly basis, or sorry, a quarterly basis or an annual basis or whatever works for them, right? And then they come up with this equalization component separately. But it's taking advantage of the opportunity that exists as defined by Canada Revenue Agency. Simple as that. 100% of everything, and it still works with multiple owners. Still works great with multiple owners. C-suite executives. This is an interesting situation. And we've done this a number of times now, but this whole thing started where, hey, you know what? We've got 500 employees or we've got 1,000 employees, and we don't want to open up Pandora's box here. We don't want to get HR and finance involved in this. We don't want to look at our entire benefit plan. We go, hey, you don't need to. You got 5 C-suite executives. Let's waive them from the health and dental plan. Waive them from their corporate health and dental plan. They still have the life insurance and the AD&D and the long-term disability that's set up perfectly for them. Let's just have them waive coverage, set up the 100% plan with the stop loss and out-of-country coverage, set the budget accordingly for the 5 or 6 or 10 executives, and they pay the bill on a monthly basis. They get reimbursed accordingly. At 100% of everything, we sent the appropriate reports, but it keeps it out of keeps it private from the entry-level HR person that's running the benefit plan. The renewal's different. It's just a little bit neat and tidy, and it just separates them from the base plan that the 500 or 1,000 employees are covering. This conversation happened on an airplane. This conversation happened on an airplane. There was this advisor that we were working with, and she was just a great talker. She was sitting beside, coming back from Fort Myers, Florida, sitting beside an executive, and he was the president and CEO of a very large Canadian company, one that all of you would know. And he was talking about he had some extraordinary expenses coming up because of a family situation. And she said to him, hey, if I could show you a way to have that covered under your benefit plan, would that be of interest to you? And he goes, no, because I don't want to talk about benefits for our whole company. That's just too much of a pain in the neck. And she said, no, we're not talking about you. We're not talking about your whole company. We're just talking about you and your executive group. And he said, I would very much entertain a 30-minute conversation about that. We went into the client a couple of weeks later. We sat down in their boardroom, and it was this president, CEO, and the CFO. And we sat down and we said, let's just carve the 5 people out or the 6 people out, set up the separate plan, 100% of everything, everything's covered, set an appropriate budget, send you monthly reports. Here's what they look like. It didn't take the whole half hour. It took probably about 15 minutes. And the client said, fantastic. and said, let's go ahead as soon as we possibly can, got up, left the room, and instructed the CFO to set this up, right? The cost for these four people, or their expenses for these, I should say six people, the expenses was quite a few $100,000. So we got quite a few $100,000 sale in 15 minutes because of how it was situated. And it was interesting. We were talking to the CFO, and I actually became kind of friends with the CFO. And I see him socially at different things from time to time. And it was really interesting because he said we had so many people look at this and over the years, but they said the only way that they could do it is going after the whole plan. And we said we don't need that. We just need this part. Right. So, anyways, you can do this and it's separate and you don't disrupt relationships that are too difficult, right? So it's a great way to do it. But without a doubt, this is a solution for wealthy clients. It's the best solution for wealthy clients, period. The best solution for wealthy clients. So you've got a wealthy client, right? And do you want to put cumbersome solutions in for them? No, you want to make it easy. It's all about convenience. One thing I do know about wealthy clients is they like to spend a lot of money staying healthy. They like to spend a lot of money staying healthy. I was out with some people yesterday afternoon, and it was interesting because the this one particular fellow was, and he's got a fair amount of money, was talking about his wife going to Arizona for special treatment because of a disease that she has. You know, they're prepared to spend a lot of money on staying healthy. Wealthy clients spend a lot of money on convenience. Convenience. CPAP machines. I don't want to carry it around. Right? I don't want to carry it around. I've got two CPAP machines in two places that I live, and I've got a very, very small one that I use for travel. Right? Wealthy clients hate waiting for anything. They hate waiting for anything. And they find when they wait for things, oh great, you need an MRI. Well, hold on a second. The MRI is going to be 6 months from now or 12 months from now. No, 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 no. They don't want to wait for that. They're dealing with Medcan or they're dealing with one of the executive medical companies that we've talked about, Cleveland Clinic, et cetera, and they can get MRIs done very quickly. And if not, they go to Buffalo and get an MRI done tomorrow. They ain't waiting for anything. Hey, we think you might have this problem. You need an MRI or a PET scan or whatever it is. Yeah, but that's going to be 6 months from now. No, not happening. Years ago, I was in for my annual physical and they said, geez, your PSA is really elevated. You might have prostate cancer. You need to see a urologist and we'll refer you to a urologist. Anyway, so just wait to hear from our office when we get a urologist appointment for you. But don't worry about it. It's probably nothing. Oh, it might be cancer, but it's probably nothing. Okay, I'm freaking out. Well, I took this into my own hands. I called the appropriate people, right? I had a biopsy done, and I had the results of the biopsy that everything was fine. Thank goodness, everything was fine before my doctor's office, the old doctors that quit, before his office called me back and said, I have an appointment with a urologist 9 months from now. And I said, I don't need it because I've got the results of the biopsy. And they said, how did you get that done? I said, that's not important. I don't want to wait for anything. Wealthy clients don't want to wait for anything. So when we're talking about benefits, let's talk about that. The other thing is wealthy clients, they only want to touch something once. You want to make it easy for them. Cost plus is not easy. Cost plus is cumbersome. And then what happens is they take the receipt that they have and they go, I'll do it tomorrow. And they put it in their drawer, or they put it in their briefcase or wherever they put it. And they don't deal with it. And it just takes a long time. Fantastic. Right? Or they don't do it, or because it's private in nature and they don't want to have their accounts payable person processing this, or they're even their executive assistant processing this. They want to touch it once. Great. With our app, you take a picture of it, you send it, they get their payment in the next 24 hours. And yeah, we're talking about things like $170,000 elevators. Okay? They only want to touch it once. Wealthy clients like creative solutions. Not can I save you 10% by shopping the marketplace? No, wealthy clients like creative solutions. Salespeople, which are clients generally speaking, because they're salespeople because they built their business from the ground up, like to be sold. Wealthy clients like to spend money. Wealthy clients like to minimize taxes. So when we're fishing and we got a hook on our lure or on our bait, you know, let's fish for wealthy clients. Let's fish for wealthy clients because you know what? The sale becomes very easy. The catch becomes very easy, right? The catch becomes very easy. What's our role as advisors? It's our role as advisors is to help design the best solution for your clients, for your wealthy clients. Our role is to help design the best solution for your wealthy clients. It's not a race to the bottom on price. Wealthy clients don't think this way. They don't. So you got your best clients, the wealthy clients, right? And you're saying, hey, what benefits can we cut? They're going, we don't want to cut benefits, especially not for me. No, wealthy clients, it's not a race to the bottom. Why do we think that's our role? It's not our role. It's about designing a solution that works for your client. And what are the groups within the group? Let's start at the top. We want to have 100% of everything, and these are the reasons why. Show them how you can add value and convenience in their lives. Hey, great. You live in multiple homes, you want some CPAP machines? Knock your socks off, right? You wear 3 pairs of glasses? Knock your socks off, right? You get executive medicals done at Cleveland Clinic or MedCan? Fantastic, right? Show them how to pay for those in the most tax effective way. Separate yourself from other advisors. We still see advisors today saying the company, when we get a set of specs in, to quote, we're going, what's the hurt? And they go, oh, the client wants to save some money. Okay, the advisor hasn't done a good job here. Put a fence around your client. Don't touch my executive benefit plan. The controller that comes in and says, hey, I got a guy. New controller comes in and says, you're paying a lot for benefits. I got a guy. I want to introduce you to my guy. And they're going, no, no, no. You know what? Ignore that. Ignore the benefits. Benefits are fine. Just ignore it and focus on other things. Don't touch my benefit plan. Once the owner and the executive, the owner, you know, understands that it's just them paying for the things that they're going to pay for anyway, and it's easy and it's convenient and it's simple, benefits are off the table. Benefit plans are off the table. Oh, but I can save you more money. No, no, you can't. You can't save my convenience. You can't. It's going to be inconvenient for me. It's going to cost me more out of my pocket. No, don't touch benefits. The other thing is it's easily referable. Your best clients become your best salespeople. Your best, wealthiest clients become your best salespeople. You know what's interesting? Your best clients become your best salespeople. And who do your best clients hang out with? Who do rich people hang out with? Other rich people. Shocking, right? At their golf clubs or at their ski clubs or at their horseback riding clubs or whatever, at their travel clubs, whatever they do, they hang out with other rich people, right? It's as simple as that. The other thing is increased benefit costs, increase commissions. Simple equation. Simple equation. Cost plus is fantastic for the insurance company, not for you. You don't make any commissions on it. You make nothing on it. Good for you. You found the lowest price. Awesome. Find a way for convenience. Find a way for your best clients to become your best salesperson. Easily referable. Put a fence around your client. For these small cases, the 1 in 2 life case, we've got this quick quotation tool. It's available. It helps you get to yes or no real quickly. It helps you determine whether or not you got a prospect. You explain the concept to them, and especially for these very small groups, we got this quick quotation tool. And reach out to Mike, reach out to Jordan, reach out to Rob, or they'll reach out to you. But they'll share this with you. But it's this great quotation tool that takes a minute to fill out. Rob, can you just talk about this real quick?
Yeah, definitely. Basically, it's just a fillable Excel form, but you can sit down with your client and you can price out the stop loss in another country. You can put in an estimated budget for the unlimited plan on how much the client thinks they're going to spend, and then we'll give you what a monthly premium would be with the taxes. If they have employees on the plan, you can also price out, or in the company, you can also price out healthcare spending accounts. So you can do on the sheet, you can do 3 separate employee healthcare spending account classes. You can price out a bit of flat life insurance, AD&D, and dependent term life. So it's a great tool that you can use to get to yes or no very quickly. Because once you explain the unlimited plan to the client, they go, awesome. How much does it cost? Then you can sit down right away with the form, enter in some information. You can even send it to them so they can kind of crunch their own numbers, and it gets you a total very quickly. So it's a great tool. Myself, again, Jordan or Mike would be happy to help walk you through this if you want to reach out, and we'll also send you an email as well.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. So as a quick quotation goal, again, this works really well with that small group or the executive C-suite that we talked about. Hey, well, there's six people in here, and how much do you think you're going to spend? You think you're going to spend $200,000 a year between the six of you, or $500,000 a year between whatever it is. Great. It works out rates. It works out budgets. Great question to ask. A terrific question to ask anybody. Anybody that owns a business. Do you spend more than $3,168.26? Remember that number, $3,168.26 on out-of-pocket healthcare expenses for you and your family in the last 12 months. Did you spend more than, again, remember this number, $3,168.26 of out-of-pocket healthcare expenses for you and your family in the last 12 months? Why is $3,168.26 important? You know what? It's a random number. But someone says, hold on a sec, this has to do with tax. What is this $3,168.26? Geez, did I miss something? Am I missing something here? Well, let me find out more. It's just intriguing. It's just a random number. Choose the number. I don't really care, right? But it just, hey, you find out whether or not you've got a prospect. You don't want to look for a wealthy person that doesn't spend any money. And you want to look for wealthy people that spend lots of money. So I just come up with this random number, and it's a great question because you can be talking to someone and they ask you what you do and you tell them how you do it and so on. And then you say, hey, just a quick out of curiosity, did you spend more than $3,168.26 on out-of-pocket healthcare expenses for you and your family in the last 12 months? And they go, yes. As a matter of fact, they did. Like that doesn't even cover one trip to MedCan. And you go, fantastic. It wouldn't be a waste of our time to continue this conversation in a more formal setting. How's Tuesday at 10 o'clock? Can we jump on a call together? Dynamite. Then you're back to the cocktail party, right? Or you're back to the golf game or whatever it is that you're doing. But it's just a fantastic question to ask. It's just a random number that gets people's attention. What's so important about this $3,168.26? Well, that $3,128.26 cost you $3,168.26 in taxes, right? It's just a great question, but they're going to answer it because it's a random number. And I've seen this work time and time again, and I've worked this time and time again. Anyways, we talked for an hour on this. You get it. We understand. We'll talk to you more about it. But I'll tell you, if you're going to go fishing with a hook and go fishing, start at the top and work your way down because this works. Upcoming Zoomcasts, we've got association plans. We're doing that in May. We're going to talk about association plans, the untapped opportunity for benefit advisors. We've got chat TBT in May as well. And so we're doing this May 5th and May 7th. And then again at the end of May. So we've got some upcoming things. We got questions, answers, and discussions. We're going to stick around for a few minutes afterwards to chat about this. I know there's been a lot of chatter in the chat box, but let me stop sharing. But on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, we want to take this opportunity to say thank you all very much for joining us today. And we're going to send you, or Mike more specifically, is going to send you a CE credit for participating. You're going to get signed up for a Trusted Advisor newsletter. Real short survey. Tell us how we did, how we can do it better tomorrow. And we're open for business. If we're doing business together, fantastic. Thank you. And if we're not doing business together, we'd like to do business with you and let us show you how we can do that. Anyways, thank you all very much for your time. It's now very close to 11 o'clock. But does anybody have any questions, thoughts, ideas? Am I off? Way out on left field. Any thoughts?
Hey, Rob.
Hey, John. Or who's speaking? Sorry. Oh,
Sorry, it's Derek. Derek.
Hey, Derek, how are you?
Not from California. When it comes to executive perks / executive benefits, if it's a relatively newer client, when do you start having the conversation versus like they're a family man, they have kids? Would you recommend putting money away in a healthcare savings trust account for future braces?
Yeah.
I know they can write all this stuff off, but how would you position the tax strategy there versus key-man insurance or life insurance through the business or other sides of perks versus benefits?
Well, I would structure it right away. I just set up the 100% plan right away. Right? I'd set up the 100% plan right away because they're only going to fund it to the amount that they claim. It's as simple as that. Yeah, little Johnny might not need braces today, but he might need them tomorrow, right?
Right.
It's just an expense through the business, right?
Which I'm
But
aware of. Yes.
yeah, but that opens up like Derek, you made a great point. It opens up the conversation about all sorts of other things like funding shareholders agreement, key man insurance, etc. Because all of a sudden you're positioning yourself very different as a benefit advisor than the average person that's saying, "Let me show you a way to save you money on your benefit plan." Hope that answers your question. Anyways, we're going to stick around, but thank you all very much. It's 11 o'clock. If you got a bolt, I appreciate it. And thank you for your time.